Welcome to Paranormal Yacker. You are invited to join me, your host, Stan Mallow, each week when I interview a different guest of note in their respective field. The unexplained, the mysterious, the macabre, UFOs, ghosts, Bigfoot, psychic phenomena. We explore them all on Paranormal Yacker. Hi, everyone. I'm Stan Mallow, the Paranormal Yacker. My guest in today's show is distinguished academic, science communicator, professor, and engineer at the University of Houston, Victoria, Dr. Chance Glenn. I'll be talking with him about the groundbreaking interactive video podcast he's hosting, Ask Dr. Chance. Dr. Chance Glenn, welcome to Paranormal Yacker.
Thank you, Stan. This is quite an honor to be here with you. It's always good to talk to people. I like broad points of view. If you take anything, no matter where people come from, and apply rational, critical thinking to it, you can come to some sort of answers for just about anything. So I believe that. So thanks for having me on.
When, Dr. Glenn, did you first catch the science and technology bug? What triggered it? And at what point did you realize this is the field for you, the one you want to pursue and make your life's work?
I always like getting them because it gives me a chance to think back and think about it. I think it's two things. I was always the kind of person to take everything apart. I wanted to know how things work. I could take it apart. I could fix anything, and I came up during a time where, you could actually open up a radio and get inside, and probably just after the times of vacuum tubes and right components, I could take things apart, make them work. I love doing that. And then the other thing was that I was a big science fiction, particularly Star Trek fan. As a matter of fact, I just took my pen off. I got to put it back on now. My Starfleet pen. I was a big Star Trek fan. And so that's what really drew me into science and all that, and trying to figure out how things worked. And that was from a really young age.
What, Dr. Glenn, is the focus, the goal of Ask Dr. Chance, and what do you hope the show accomplishes?
It's just like what we're doing now. We're asking each other questions and trying to get to truth. I believe, one, that science is for everyone, and understanding science is for everyone. That doesn't mean that everybody's a science and engineer. We should be able to talk about the impact and the meaning of science and what it does for each of us. That's what I want to do, is explain scientific principles in ways so that everybody can understand. That's my goal.
Who is your target audience?
Everyday people is my target audience. People who are inquisitive, just like people you have on your show. They want to know. They want to know what's going on around them. They want to know how things work. Too much, I think, that academics in particular, we kind of set up this ivory tower where we know this and you little people don't know anything, and let me pronounce to you how things are. But that's not what I really believe how things should be. We should be able to converse, and I should be able to explain difficult concepts in ways that anybody can understand them. And that's my goal.
Ask Dr. Chance is a collaboration between you and the cutting-edge news site called The Debrief. For those who may not be acquainted with The Debrief, could you tell me something about the company, such as when it was formed and its mandate?
I don't have all the details on the company, The Debrief. They are a production company, and they produce a lot of scientific and technology, engineering content, whether it's podcasts, whether it's websites, reading materials. I'm not privy to how long they've been in operation. This show that they reached out to me was only a few months ago. And one of the reasons was one of the producers, or her name is Chrissy Newton. She saw an interview I did where I was explaining some scientific concepts, and she really liked the way I did it, how I went about it, broke it down so that anybody and everybody could understand it, and said, why don't we do a show like that? So that's how I got involved involved with them, but I know their history is well before me.
My next question was going to be, how did the collaboration between you and the brief come about? You just answered that. So thank you. It's always curious to me when there were collaborations, how it comes about. They approached you. That was it. What topics are covered in the Ask Dr. Chance podcast?
I'll just run down the 3 episodes I've either put forward or I'm working on. The first one was about space travel and, all the questions you would have, how far away certain things are, whether it's the moon or Mars or the nearest star or another galaxy. What would it take for us to get there? What kind of vehicles or energies we would have to harness in order to travel those distances in space? That's what the show number 1 was all about, introductory. Now, the next one was pretty interesting. We talked about UFOs and UAPs. UAPs is now the fancy, well-respected acronym now, unidentified aerial phenomena. But unidentified flying objects is what we're used to. We talked a lot about that. And I actually got a chance to, talked about an interview I had with a guy named Ryan Graves, who is a military pilot. And he's one of the pilots that encountered probably some of the more recent video we've seen of the UFOs that were spinning around up there and the military pilots had locked on to them. That's that guy. I got a chance to talk to him and some others about their experience. And I talked about that. Then we talked a little bit about the technology. If there are extraterrestrial forms out there, what would it take for them to do what they did and get if they were to come here? Here's the point I made in that show. First point is, if what we're seeing and observing, and there are hundreds of them, of these observations, if they are just from terrestrial actors, say it's another country or something like that, and they had those kind of capabilities, we should be concerned. If they were from an extraterrestrial society of some sort, then we should be concerned as well. And it's probably one or the other if it's not just some sort of illusion or some sort of mix-up. So that was that show. And then this last show, I just finished a recording, was with a gentleman who was one of the stars of Star Trek Voyager. His name is Tim Russ. He played Tuvok. He's a Vulcan character on the Voyager show. I interviewed him. We had an extensive conversation, great conversation. So listeners will want to listen to that because we've talked about a lot of interesting things.
Unlike most science and technology podcasts, Ask Dr. Chance is interactive and gives its audience the opportunity to be part of the show. What are the dynamics involved in how you go about making it interactive?
This was the ingenious move by Chrissy, one of the producers at Debrief, and that is to make it interactive that way. So what we do is we put out the topic ahead of time in social media, and then we ask people to send questions in. They tweet them in, they Facebook, Instagram, you name it, and then I address the question directly. And I've gotten some really good questions. The UFO questions were great. The questions for Tim Russ were great. And the questions I got on space travel were great ones. And I like that because it gives people a reason to tune in, but also the questions come from real people. I could concoct questions and, maybe think they're really great questions, but questions that come from an everyday listener, those are the best ones. And that's what I wanted to get. And that's what we got. And it works.
If you, Dr. Glenn, had Aladdin's magical lamp, what scientific or technical breakthroughs would you wish for?
One is one that I'm working on now as we speak. And as you can see, I'm sitting in my lab and I'm working on one of those technologies right now. The other one would be, and I'll go back to this in a second, but the second one I would say would either be a transporter or a dimensional doorway that would let you just walk through and you can be in another place at another time, that type of technology. But what I'm working on is actually something to distort space-time, essentially precursor to a warp drive. I've come up with a way that I believe will allow it to be possible. And I'm about to conduct some experiments to either prove or disprove the hypothesis that I had. If that is the case, then it would be the first experimental evidence of our ability to distort or warp space-time. And once we do that, and I'm trying at a really small nanoscopic level, then we talk about how do we scale it and make it into to something that perhaps you could one day send a spacecraft or device with. That's what I'm working on. There's other scientists around the world who are working on similar types of things. But again, I guess in a way, I don't want to wave a magic wand or rub a magic lamp. I'd rather go through the work and figure it out and go through the science and the engineering to make it happen rather than just kind of have it magically happen.
I've got a strong feeling you're going to accomplish that. It sounds awesome. And I do hope you know or you've contacted a good patent attorney.
Yeah. We've taken those steps.
Good,
Absolutely.
good. Because it really sounds incredible and you definitely want to protect yourself. Is there any chance that somewhere down the line you may go on the road and take it to various places, various states, various countries?
I mean, and I've done some of that already. I was just at the Galactic Diversity Inclusion Conference a couple of weekends ago, this past weekend in Philadelphia that just happened. And I got a chance to talk about that as well as meet several science fiction luminaries and actors. I also was at Earthlight Foundation, had a conference a few months ago in Austin, and I presented that. But yeah, I one time, if I am successful experimentally in the lab, you can bet I'm going to go around and talk about it. But right now, I'm going to make sure what I'm talking about turns into reality. Then there'll be a lot to talk about.
Should viewers of Paranormal Yacker want to learn more about your, I believe it's 10 episodes now, 10 episode interactive video?
Working on 10. It will be 10 once we're all done.
On the video podcast, Ask Dr. Chance. Great name, great title. How can they do that?
The best way would be on my Twitter handle at Professor_Glenn. That's my Twitter handle. And you'll see Chance Glenn under, my name will be there. So just follow me there. That's how you can ask questions. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram under Chance Glenn as well. But Twitter, I think, is the best one because we interact that way. I would love for your listeners to follow me there. And I'm always posting stuff. I'll post stuff from the lab, but also you can ask me the questions there. And then we follow some everything because I know you deal with the paranormal, and there's a consideration that some paranormal activity just might be extra dimensional activity where you have the multi-worlds theory. That's a scientific quantum mechanic based theory. If two different realities kind of bleed together at certain parts or certain places, perhaps there's this interaction that we see and consider to be ghosts or apparitions or what have you. That could be a very interesting scientific explanation for some of those things.
Dr. Chance Glenn, I thank you for being my guest on Paranormal Yacker. It has been most informative yakking with you, and I wish you deserve success with your podcast.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate you letting me be here. And all your listeners, good luck to you, and I look forward to interacting with you as well. And you have a great podcast as well, and just let's keep talking, keep yakking.
Thank you kindly. Be well. Hi, everyone. This is Stan Mallow, the Paranormal Yacker. I hope you enjoyed the interview you just watched. To be sure you're amongst the first to receive new interviews when they're released and to have access to previous ones, subscribe to my free YouTube channel. To do that, all you have to do is press the subscribe button on your screen.